Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Kiran Mai. Today we discuss three topics: antihistamines, nasal decongestants, antitussives. First we discuss antihistamines. Contents we discuss here are: we'll have brief introduction about histamines, the synthesis, storage and release of histamine, inhibitors of histamine release, receptors of histamine. Especially here we discuss about H1 mediated actions of histamine and classifications, indications and contraindications of H1 antagonists. Histamines, these are autocoids or local hormones because they are produced by the tissues or endothelial cells. After being released, they act at the same site or near the site of their release. Histamines, they don't have any therapeutic application, but their agonist antagonists have. Histamine is widely distributed in skin, GIT mucosa, lungs, brain, cerebrospinal fluid, and bone marrow. Histamine is synthesized from amino acid L-histidine. This L-histidine is converted into histamine in the presence of histidine decarboxylase. This histamine is stored as granules, majority predominantly in mast cells, basophils in the blood. These granules are having macroheparin, histamine, and acidic protein. Release mechanism. Histamine is released by immunologically, chemically, mechanically, or few drugs which causes release of histamine. Immunological is very important. Immunological release. Immunological release. Exposure to the allergen. When a person is exposed to the allergen, that person produces IgE antibodies. These IgE antibodies binds to the IgE receptors of mast cells. When that person re-exposed to the same allergen, degranulation will take place. It will cause immediate allergy reactions, though that also called as type 1 reaction. Chemical and mechanical. When there is a cell injury to the mast cell, it will degranulate mast cell and histamine will be released. Few chemicals and drugs like morphine, succinylcholine, D-tubocurarine, radio contrast media, by the process of exocytosis, they replace histamine in the granule, so histamine will be released. Histamine contributes hypersensitivity and anaphylactic shock along with the serotonin and leukotrienes. Inhibitors of histamine release. Beta-2 agonists like isoprenaline, mast cell membrane stabilizers like disodium chromoglycate, ketotifen, they will inhibit the release of histamine. Receptors of histamine. Histamine is having 4 receptors: H1, H2, H3 and H4. These are all belongs to G protein coupled receptors. These H1 receptors, they present at smooth muscle of intestine, bronchi, uterus. Upon the stimulation, they will cause contraction. They also present at blood vessel. Upon the stimulation, they will cause increased permeability, will cause vascular leak. Histamine is a powerful neurotransmitter which mediates pain and itching. These H1 receptors, they present at the brain They maintain the wakefulness. So when we are giving antihistamines, the main side effect will be the drowsiness. H1 mediated actions. Histamine is a powerful stimulant of pain and itching. In smooth muscle, it will cause bronchoconstriction, spasmodic contraction of ileum and uterus. It will cause intestinal cramps, diarrhea. It is also present at various glands. In that glands, it will increase secretions of bronchioles, salivary and lacrimal glands. It is present at the brain. It maintains wakefulness. The blockade of this action leads to the drowsiness. These are H1 mediated actions. H1 and H2 mediated actions. Histamine, it stimulates it binds with the receptors at the endothelial cells. It mediates contraction. It will lead to vascular leak. Vascular leak stimulates synthesis and release of muscle relaxants, nitric oxide, and endothelial derived relaxing factor. In turn, it will cause dilatation and decrease in blood pressure. Second one is positive chronotropic action, positive inotropic action on heart. These are H1, H2 reaction, H1, H2 mediated actions. When histamine is given intradermally, it will cause triple response. The components of triple response are flush, wheal, flare. Flush means reddening, wheal means edematous patch, flare is irregular surroundings. Flush is due to dilatation of small vessels like capillaries. Wheal is due to increased permeability. Flare due to axon reflex, which results vasodilatation, neuromedial reflex, which will cause vasodilatation. These are the components of triple response. Histamine contributes anaphylactic shock. It is a life-threatening problem. In the three components of anaphylactic shock are bronchospasm, angioneurotic edema, hypotension. We'll discuss about H2 receptors. These H2 receptors, they present at gastric glands. Upon the stimulation, they will secrete acid, gastric acid. These H2 receptor antagonists, they will be discussed in acid peptic disease. Clinical uses and toxicity and contraindications of histamine. The only clinical use of histamine is it is used as positive control injection of skin allergies. The adverse drug reactions for the histamine are bronchoconstriction. It will increase the gastric acidity, intestinal cramps. These are the adverse reactions of histamine. Histamine is contraindicated in asthma and peptic ulcers. Let's discuss about antagonists of histamine. Antihistamines are generally divided into two categories. First generation antihistamines, second generation antihistamines. The first generation antihistamines, they are short and intermediate action. They can cross the blood-brain barrier, so they are more sedating. Second generation antihistamines, they are long acting, they will not cross blood-brain barrier, no muscarinic side effects. Sedation is negligible in this second generation. Coming to the pharmacokinetics, these antihistamines are well absorbed orally. They are metabolized by the liver enzymes, cytochrome P450. Especially the second generation antihistamines, they are metabolized by cytochrome P3A4. So the inhibitors of cytochrome P3A4 like ketoconazole, erythromycin, these will cause toxicity of these antihistamines. First generation antihistamines, diphenhydramine and dimenhydrinate. These are these first generation antihistamines. They have muscarinic side effects. These muscarinic side effects, they are used in some clinical situations. For example, diphenhydramine and dimenhydrinate, they have anti-motion sickness. They are used in the anti-motion sickness. Hydroxyzine, promethazine, doxylamine. These are having antiemetic property. Especially doxylamine is also having sedating property. So doxylamine is used in hyperemesis gravidarum, that is vomitings due to pregnancy. These are highly sedative drugs of first generation. Next, pyrilamine, pheniramine, clemastine. These are first generation drug. These are moderately sedative. First three drugs like pyrilamine, pheniramine, these are used in sleeping aid because these drugs don't have addiction liability. Clemastine is used as anti-serotonin because it is having anti-serotonin action. Third group of drugs in the first generation, these are least sedating drugs or mild sedating drugs. In this, we have methylene, chlorpheniramine, cinnarizine. Cinnarizine is having calcium blocking property. It is used in vertigo. Second generation drugs are estimuzole, fexofenadine, cetirizine, levocetirizine, loratadine, desloratadine, olopatadine. This olopatadine is used for it is a eye solution used for itching of the eye. Levocetirizine is a levoisomer of a cetirizine. Desloratadine is a dextroisomer of loratadine, which is having anti-inflammatory action. As we discussed, these second generation drugs, they have least sedation property. They don't cross a blood-brain barrier. They don't have anti-muscarinic effects. So these are used frequently in clinical practice nowadays. Therapeutic uses of antihistamines. These antihistamines are used in conditions like allergies, atopic dermatitis. This is a first drug of choice because here the mediator is histamine. In asthma, it is not used because there are many mediators which cause asthma. Angioedema, here mediators are histamine and peptide kinase. So, in the treatment, we use antihistamines, steroids, adrenaline, and supportive therapy with oxygen. Nutshell, these histamines are autocoids. They are synthesized from histidine, amino acid histidine. They are stored in the mast cells and basophils as granules. Chemical, mechanical, and immunological mediators, they will cause degranulation of the histamine from the mast cells and basophils. This histamine it mediates many actions depending upon the receptor. Histamine is having four receptors. H1 and H2 receptors are the most important receptors. H1 receptors, these are present at brain, which maintain the alertness. They will present at the smooth muscle of bronchus, uterus, and GIT, which will cause smooth muscle contraction. And the blood vessels, they will cause contraction of endothelial cells, which will lead to leaky blood vessels. Histamine mediates anaphylactic shock. So to revert these conditions, we use antihistamines. These antihistamines are competitive antagonists of H1 receptor. They may not displace histamine from the H1 receptor, but they compete for that receptor. H1 receptor antagonists, they are first generation and second generation. First generation drugs, they have more sedation, less duration of action, and they have anti-muscarinic effect. These anti-muscarinic effects are used in clinical conditions like they are using as emetics, anti-motion sickness drugs, sedating drugs, sleeping aids, because opioids, they have addiction liability. These H1 receptor antagonists, they don't have addiction liability. Next topic is nasal decongestants. Contents in the nasal decongestants are congestion. What is congestion? Causes of nasal congestion. What are nasal decongestants? Their mechanism of action, uses, and adverse drug reactions. Congestion. Congestion is a pathological term. It means localized increase of blood in a particular tissue due to poor venous outflow. Nasal congestion. Commonly, it is called as blocked nose or stuffed nose. It is because increased blood flow to the nasal mucosa, which will cause obstruction to the airflow. Causes for the nasal congestion are common cold, allergies, chronic and acute sinusitis. Some anatomical problems like deviated nasal septum. Nasal decongestants, These are the drugs which relieve nasal congestion by constriction of blood vessels. Here we are using alpha-1 adrenergic agonist drugs. These drugs binds to the alpha-1 receptor present at the nasal vasculature, which will cause vasoconstriction and release the nasal congestion. These drugs are non-catecholamine drugs. So these drugs they don't metabolized by catecholamine O methyl transferase. So their duration of action is more. The drugs under this category are phenylephrine, oxymetazoline, xylometazoline, nafazoline, pseudoephedrine, and phenylpropanolamine. The route of administration, these drugs they are used as drops or sprays. Otrivin is an example for the nasal drops. Side effects of the nasal decongestant. When we use excessively, rebound congestion will occur because it will cause local ischemia. It will lead to vasoconstriction and congestion. These nasal decongestants are palliative effects of symptoms of common cold and allergic rhinitis. These are not curative methods. We need to use some antibiotics and other medications to cure. So, on nutshell, these decongestant nasal decongestions are used in common cold, allergic rhinitis to relieve the stuffed nose. And last topic is antitussives. Contents in the antitussives are first we'll discuss about cough. Introduction. What is cough? How many types of coughs we have? What is antitussive? What is mucolytic? Drugs for the dry cough, their classification, uses, and adverse drugs. Cough is a protective reflex. It clears the respiratory tract from the accumulated mucus and foreign substances. Total abolition of cough is not desired, but sometimes it occurs as a symptom of underlying disease. In such situations, a long-term cough is quite distressing and exhausting. We need to treat that. Cough. Cough is two types, non-productive cough and productive cough. Non-productive cough, also known as, it is called as dry cough. Productive cough, it is known as wet cough. Antitussives, these are the medications used for the dry cough only. The classification of antitussives, they are classified into three categories: centrally acting, centrally and peripherally acting. Third one is peripherally acting. Centrally acting drugs. Centrally acting drugs, example are codeine, falcodeine. These are opioid drugs. Dextromethorphan, noscopine, pipazitate. These are non-opioid drugs. These act by suppressing the cough center at medulla. Codeine and falcodeine, these are opioid analgesics. As the name suggests, these are having analgesic action along with antitussive action, but they are having more addiction liability. Codeine is having more addiction liability compared with falcodeine. Potency of falcodeine is much more higher than codeine. These two have side effects of constipation, drowsiness. They are very high. Non-opioid drugs like dextromethorphan, nascopin, pipazitate, these are equally potent as potent as codeine and falcodine, but the advantages of using these non-opioid drugs, they don't have addiction liability. Constipation side effects like constipation and drowsiness, they are very minimal or negligible. Next group of drugs are centrally and peripherally acting. Example for this group is benzonatate. It is structurally related to the local anesthetic tetracaine. The mechanism of action is it suppresses the medullary cough center at the center, and it inhibit the pulmonary stretch receptors at peripherally. It is also having mild local anesthetic action. The side effects are it will cause drowsiness because it is centrally acting, nausea, headache. It will cause vertigo at higher doses. Peripherally acting drugs. These drugs inhibit pulmonary stress receptors to relieve bronchospasm. Examples are fernoxdinazole. Examples are fernoxdiazine. It is having moderate action. Next group of drugs are demulcents. These are indirectly acting. They form a protective coat over the sensory receptors present on the pharynx and larynx. Example for these are Vasaka syrup, Tolu syrup. These are the demulcents. Local anesthetics, these are also used as antitussives during the procedures of bronchoscopy. To reduce the sensitivity of sensory receptors at pharynx and larynx. Antitussives are contraindicated in cough associated with asthma, bronchitis, bronchiectasis, because in these conditions these will cause formation of sputum. So retention, when we are suppressing the cough, it will retain the retention of sputum in the tract, and it will cause a thickening of sputum. It will have dangerous effects. So in these conditions, antitussives are contraindicated. In a nutshell, antitussives are used in dry cough. They are classified into three classes: centrally acting, centrally and peripherally acting. Centrally acting, they are opioid drugs and non-opioid drugs. Opioid drugs, they are having more side effects. Non-opioid drugs, the potency of their cough suppression is equivalent to the opioid drugs, but these drugs, they don't have any side effects or negligible side effects. They are having negligible side effects. Peripherally acting drugs, centrally and peripherally acting drugs, it is having both the actions, central and peripherally. Peripherally acting drugs, these may be the mechanism of action. They may inhibit the stretch receptors, or they may form a protective layer over the sensory receptors, or local local anesthetics. They are also, these are local anesthetics they use in procedures like bronchoscopy to prevent the cough during particular time. Contraindications for the antitussives are cough associated with bronchitis, asthma, and bronchiectasis. Thank you.